Okay. So I thought of speaking today something very interesting, and it has to do with the beginning of this week's parasha. In Parashat Pinhas, at the beginning, we learn about the importance of Pinhas ben Lazar ben Aaron HaKohen, how he Heshivet Chamati, he tranquilized, he actually made HaKadosh Baruch Hu more calm. He calmed the HaKadosh Baruch Hu down because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to wipe out the Jewish nation. And we know that there were a lot of things that came out of this. The Zeruah Lechayim Ve'Akeva, which is basically three of the presents that we give to the Kohen. The right arm, right, the forearm, the beginning part of the animal, the cheeks, the stomach area, it goes to the Kohen, it's a present. That all started because of this action of Pinhas. Also, we have the concept of, the other one, which is also besides that, is the concept of Eliyahu Navi. Pinhas becomes Eliyahu Navi, becomes a Kohen, right? Because we know that Pinhas, we sing in the song, Pinhas is Eliyahu. And also Eliyahu, right, Pinhas becomes Kohanim. Beforehand, Pinhas was not going to become a Kohen. He only became a Kohen because of this action. So obviously, he did a very, very strong and very important action. But now the question that we ask ourselves is, what was so important?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm confused. Eliyahu Hanavi is Pinhas?
Yes.
They're the same person?
It's the same person. We sing it in the song of, like on the Motzei Shabbat or also by Brit Milah, they start singing, na 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 na. No, sorry, that's the other one. The one of Eliyahu Navi on the Brit Milah. We come and we start singing Pinchas Eliyahu Hanavi Ikrahu na 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 Lichvodchem da levavi Eliyahu Hanavi. No, you never heard of that song?
Yeah. So
that song, in the middle, we sing Pinchas hu Eliyahu. And the famous question that the Rav Chida asks is, one second, who came first? Pinchas or Eliyahu? Obviously, Pinchas came first, and then Eliyahu Navi. Eliyahu Navi was during the time of the Nevi'im. Pinchas is now in the Torah. So if anything, it should have been the opposite. Eliyahu is Pinchas Navi. So there's a whole thing about it that whether he became Eliyahu Navi, he was really a malach, he came down as Pinchas, and he came down as Eliyahu. But there's a lot of what to speak about that. But the basic concept is that he became an eternal person, because Eliyahu Navi didn't actually die. You understand? So basically, it's very important just for us to remember, because again, this is the concept that's brought down, that he is Eliyahu Navi because of this action, that he's going to tell us about the Mashiach. He's, many, many different things. All of this is going to happen, right, because of this action that he did here. You remember the action, what he did. Basically, the Jewish nation, they sinned with the daughters of Moab, right? Because they made the whole trap. What they did was this all came from, by the way, Bilam. And that's why later on in Matot Maseh, Bilam came to cash up. He wanted money, and then they killed him. Why? Because he went and he told them, the Jewish God hates one thing the most, immorality. You want them to fall? Let them fall with immorality, and then that's it. And there's nothing going to happen. So what happened? He went and he told them very simple. You're going to have the very old ladies selling things outside. And then you have young women selling things indoors in the tents. And then they're going to come and they're going to say, why are you going to pay double outside? Come inside. They come inside and they start luring them to start. They give them to drink, they give them to eat. And in those days, you were allowed to drink wine of goyim. So they were drinking wine. And then the goya says, no, you want to do an avirah? He says, yeah, for sure. Bow down to this. It's Baal Peor. Bow down. So they bowed down to the Avodah Zarah, and then they did the avirot. They went and they sinned with the daughters of Moab. So comes Pinchas, and he realized that what happened, that the Nasi of a tribe, the prince of a tribe, took the daughter. Think about it, the daughter of Moab. He comes, the princess, right? He comes, he takes her, and he's having relations with her. So Pinchas says, if I'm not going to stop this, everyone's going to die. Look what's happening. So he went and he killed them. And when he killed them, that's when Hashem was calmed down. Okay? So now what we're going to go to today's shiur is the following. There were two different averot that happened. right? We all know the two different Avirot, the daughters of Moav and Baal Peor, which is Avodah Zarah. Which one's more stricter? Which one's worse? Avodah Zarah or being with the daughters of Moav?
It's the
What do you
same.
guys say? What?
It's the same.
It's the same. So
To the daughters of Moab, they're going to end up doing Avodah Zarah.
100% that each one brought, but which one? Because basically, again, a magifa came, the plague came, a pandemic came. It killed 24,000 people it didn't take them 6 weeks, right? Or 24,000 people in one shot. Okay, which one was worse? If I'm going to ask you now, what do you think? What are you going to tell me?
Being with the daughters of him.
Daughters
I
of Moab
think
are worse.
Yep.
What did you say, Goldie?
I think idol worship.
Idol worship. So technically speaking, she's right. No? Even though 1 minute, Jimmy, we're going to get to you. 1 second. So why do I say she's right? Because Avodah Zarah is the Areg Val Yavor. You have to give up your life, plus you get the death penalty. Benot Moav, he's not committing infidelity with a married woman. He's going with a goya. It could be karet, it could be lashes, it could be, but again, it's not the same as Avodah Zarah. So why is it that all of a sudden in such an averah, right? And if you actually look at it, what is the ikar of the sin? The ikar of the sin was, and what was it? Benot Moav, the daughters of Moab. Why? There's a midrash and a Gemara. The Gemara says, Pinhas came, he took Zimri ben Salu and Kozbi Batsur, right? He took them, he threw them on the floor. And he said, Ribono shel olam, on these two people, 24,000 Jews are going to die. What? It was the Avodah Zarah was the ikar. Like what Jimmy said, I would have said like Jimmy, listen, Avodah Zarah is the worst of all the Averot, right? Because that means you don't believe in God at all. Benot Moav, you could say, listen, the guy had a Yetzirah, right? The men they got very enticed. They got lured into it. It was whatever you want to call it. But listen, it's not that he doesn't believe in Hashem. He believes in God, but okay, he wasn't able to control himself for a few minutes, whatever it was. You understand? But Avodah Zarah, how could it be? Listen to the answer. What would you guys say if you would answer this? What would you think?
Well, the story is told that the women, they had their idols and they made the guys do the idol worship to be with them. So that's why it became Avodah Zarah.
So they committed both sins, idol worship and Benot Moav. If a plague is going to come and swipe up 24,000 people, which one would you say was worse? Meaning, what's it coming for? It's not written both. It's either one or the other. So I think you would probably choose Avodah Zarah. But Jimmy chose the Benot Moav, the daughters of Moav. Why? Okay.
The desire to do idol worship, and they took away prophecy. Like that
was after the Bet HaMikdash. The Navi Yirmiyahu Navi. By then, that's when they took it away. They took away the concept of idol worship. That's why nowadays we don't understand idol worship. If you're going to come and you're going to tell a person, I go and I bow down to a stone, you're going to think that the guy's, a little bit, you understand? Like it doesn't make sense. But you're right. They took that away, right? And they took away the prophecy that was during the time of the Bet HaMikdash. But that's already 4,000 years later. You understand?
But they do.
No, not 4,000 years later. 3,000 years later.
If you go to the Far East, they pray to Buddha and all these things. That's how
you're right. You're right, but it's not the same level though. Meaning nowadays it's not the same level of Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah had such a strong concept that it was very difficult not to serve idol worship. Nowadays, a lot of people, they don't believe it. And even nowadays became worse. Nowadays, how many atheists do you have? The concept of atheism didn't exist because everyone had a god. The question is just what? Was the god of the moon, the sun, stone and Mecca? Was it, I don't know what? You understand? Meaning everyone had these different things, but they all had something. Nowadays, it doesn't exist. It became even worse.
Well, because I learned, isn't it that back then the idols actually had a certain power? That's why they believed it?
No, so a lot of times they didn't actually have a real power, but sometimes it's that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to fool people. You understand? And therefore, he'll let it happen more than anything else, right? But to go back to the question, because we're going back to Jimmy, right? And the concept is like this. The Netivot Shalom, the Admor of Slonim, He comes and he says, that's the difference. You know what the difference is? The difference is between the servant of a king and the son of a king. What's the difference between a servant and a son? If I'm going to ask you now, what's the worst Avera in the world? Or, for example, what is the worst thing that you could do in America? Right? If I'm going to ask you your opinion, what's the worst thing that you could do? What are you going to tell me?
Murder?
Murder? What do you say?
No.
Today is being a racist.
Okay, today's being a racist, but okay.
I'll go with the murder as well.
Murder as well. So I'm going to tell you guys a little secret.
Your program, Rabbi, is a very big sin here.
There is something a little bit higher than that. You know what it is? IRS. If you cheat the government,
it wasn't in my
money,
mind. Right.
in money, right? They'll come.
Right.
Do you know that there was a story in Miami Beach, a couple, right, that they declared bankruptcy. I think it was like 10 days too early, meaning they did declare bankruptcy. They didn't realize that something happened. It was a whole mistake. They sent the FBI a helicopter to Tower 41, going around. FBI came in, broke down the door with the big, the big guns. These are people that they have no guns. They're not murderers. They're nothing. They took them away. They took their children to. What did they do? They killed someone? You're going in with helicopters and with I don't know what? What do you think? They're James Bond. They're going to jump out of the window on Tower 41 and go swimming? What do you think they're doing? Where are you going? It has to go all over the news. It has to go all over everything. 1 second. How much do you get? Do you know, I once told this to you. How much does a person get for killing their wives in Spain? How much jail time?
In Spain?
No.
5 years. It became a minhag to kill their wife. Think about it. You kill her, 5 years. Come on, no, that's it. You got rid of all the headaches. It only cost you 5 years of your life, but now you're scot-free for the rest of your life. You understand? If you would have divorced her, she would have probably taken half your property and money and wealth and everything. That would have cost you much more. Here, it's 5 years, and that's it. You finished the job. Why wouldn't you do it? You understand? Don't get any ideas. I didn't say that. Yeah? Okay? So what happens?
Do not try this at home.
Don't try this at home.
With the
What?
IRS has been always. There was a very famous mafia guy called Al Capone
Right?
that he murdered drugs, the alcohol. They could not get him with anything. The only way they were able to get him is through the IRS.
Exactly.
And they put him 11 years in jail. The guy killed I don't know how many people. They were not able ever to catch him on murder or anything.
On the murder or
else.
anything
Just
else. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Even if they would have been able to catch him on the concept, for example, you have a person that he comes and he commits a terrorist attack, whether it was in the Boston and all the bomb attacks. They'll have to trial him. It'll take I don't know how many years until maybe death penalty, not death penalty. How many terms can they get? You're going to take a person like Madoff. He's got like 200 counts. Why? Because if he would have to serve in jail the time amount, he would have to live like 500 years for him to actually serve it out. Why? Because when you go against the holy, the God, the dollar, in God we trust. You understand? It's not going to work that way. You understand? The dollar is the God. You have to be careful with that. So what happens? A servant understands the severity of what's going on according to the punishment. And therefore, when a person says Avodah Zarah, you guys were right on Avodah Zarah. Why? I think it was Goldie was the one that said about Avodah Zarah. Why? Because the entire concept of Avodah Zarah is a much stricter punishment. The label. If you're going to come and you're going to say, what's a better quality? What are you going to do? A person that's a fool, he's going to say, look at the price tag. Yeah, but I made up the price tag. I could have come and put the price tag, triple the price. If you don't understand anything in diamonds, I could sell you a piece of glass for $1 million. And I just, how do you say in English? Avati alecha. That's say in Hebrew. Which means I just fooled you.
He called you.
Yeah, I just conned you. Why? Because you can't look at the price tag. That's a servant. A servant of the king looks at the price tag. He says, what is the worst Avera? Avodah Zarah. Why is it Avodah Zarah? Very simple. Look at the price tag. Look at the punishment. The punishment is death penalty. Yareg val yavor. However, though, what is the concept of not, right? Of not that? but rather of a child. The child, the son of the king. Says, you know what the son of the king does? The son of the king comes and he says, it has nothing to do with the punishment. It's not the punishment. He says it all has to do with what is to make the king feel worse. And he says, you know what makes the king feel worse? The immorality. Why is it like that? What exactly is happening? Very, very simple, right? Comes HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he says there's something which is called a Chilul Hashem. What is a Chilul Hashem? Do you know that there were a few different sins in the desert? It was the daughters of Moab, the sin of the spies, the machloket of Korach and everyone there. Kivrot Ta'ava, they desired different meats, the ones complainers, all these different things. Even though the punishments were very, very bad, but think about it. The one of the speaking Lashon Hara against Eretz Yisrael, that's Lashon Hara. There's no death penalty. You could get lashes maybe, but there's no death penalty. But there's nothing more hated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu when we come and we're going to speak negative about the Holy Land, about Eretz Yisrael. And therefore, even though mitzvah punishment, it's not as bad as a punishment. The sentimental value, the feelings, is much stronger. It's much worse. Why? Because you touched my soft point. You touched something which was much worse. And that's why Bnei Yisrael were punished for that more than a lot of other things. That maybe it would have been much worse punishments. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Kol menatzai lo yirua. Anybody that goes against me, they will not see Eretz Yisrael. Why? You went and you spoke bad against Eretz Yisrael. You're not going to merit to see Eretz Yisrael because you went against it. And that's why, right, he comes and he says, that's why it's so important for us just to realize, right, the entire concept of what's going on. Why is this so important? Kam Chachamim, and they say, this is so important because now we understand what it is, the son of a king. Your child knows what hurts you most, even though, according to rules, it should be worse, right? It could be sometimes they could come and they did something wrong, and they did something very bad, but it wasn't that bad anymore. Why? Because it wasn't against you. It wasn't something against you personally. They did something wrong. Okay, they did something wrong. But if they know that this is your puppy, that this is your soft point, this is your baby, this is the most important that you have, and they come and they burst the bubble, that's the worst thing that they could do in the world. And that's what exactly Bil'am understood. Bil'am, as Yonatan ben Uziel says, Vayakrev et elecha v'et hamidani le'nei Moshe, says there, the Yonatan ben Uziel, Binum bachim mekarin shema. They're crying and they're reading Kriyat Shema. Why are they crying and they're reading Kriyat Shema? Why are they crying, first of all? And also, why are they reading Kriyat Shema? He says, you know why? Because there was a big Chilul Hashem here. How could it be that you're desecrating the name of God? You have this prince of a Shevet that he comes and he's so chutzpan. He has the audacity to speak against Moshe Rabbeinu, to cause everything, to do the worst hated thing in the eyes of Hashem. That's much worse. And that's why it's known, right? Do you know that this actually applies even nowadays? Why do I say it applies nowadays? Do you know that nowadays, right, there's something which is called a Mechalel Shabbat, and there's somebody that's married out. What's worse, somebody that's married to a Goya or Mechalel Shabbat?
Wow.
What do you guys say?
That's really hard. I think marrying a goy, because
Yeah.
you can always return. Like people do tshuva, and you can always go and return and do Shabbat. As like when you marry a goy, you're literally killing the Jewish people.
The offspring.
Yeah, you're
It's very
affecting
interesting.
generations.
Which one?
You're affecting generations.
Right, you're doing
Yeah,
generations.
marrying a
That's what
goy.
Goldie was saying. Okay, but maybe let's say even that you convert them later. Okay, no, but okay, I hear where you're going. But now listen to this.
You won't be Mechalel Shabbat. You're doing both. Because if
No,
you're married to a goy, it
by-
means that you're even doing
By the way,
Shabbat.
you should know, I met a Jew personally. I never knew he was married to a Goya. Why? He was married to a Goya, but he was the Shamash of the Bet Knesset. He wasn't the Parnas. He wasn't the one that gave out aliyot and things like that. But he was the one that was in charge of, for example, he was the one that was in charge of making sure that everything was clean in the Bet Knesset, of this, of that. He was the one in charge. I never would have dreamed he was married to Goya. He used to come to Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit every single day. Every day.
Did she convert?
She never converted. I don't know if she actually ever kept anything, but him on the outside, for sure, he kept Shabbat. Maybe you're right. Maybe on the inside, or maybe this or that or whatever, but for sure he kept Shabbat. You understand? So, but I'm going to tell you the following. Mitzad halacha, somebody that's mechalel Shabbat b'faresya is chayav nita, sekila. We stone them to death. That's the most highest punishment ever. However, though, mitzad, getting married to a goya, it's karet. Karet is the death penalty from Shamayim, not from here, right? And it's like, so therefore, it's a lower level. It's not death penalty from the Betin. Betin cannot kill you, but Chalel Shabbat, yes. But what about when they come up to the Torah? So Rav Ovadia brings down, you're not supposed to they're not supposed to give a Mechalel Shabbat Faresya and Eliyah. In Chutz La'aretz, we're lenient. And that I heard from a lot of Rav Banim. From Rabbi Yesayek told me that, Rav Panini told me that, Rav David Peretz told me that. Usually in Chutz La'aretz, we're more lenient to do with Mechalel Shabbat Faresya, because usually they're not Mechalel Shabbat Faresya because they don't know. They never were brought up with it. What does that mean? They know it's Shabbat, but they never were brought up with the importance of Shabbat. So they don't understand what's going on. But something very interesting that you have to actually understand is as follows, right? Kam Chachamim, and they say, do you know like this? Do you know? So then what's the difference though? Do you know that if somebody's Mechalel Shabbat Faresya, you'll give them an Aliyah? If they're married to a Goya, no. Why not? Explains, this is brought down in the Minchat Yitzchak and others as well. Everybody knows that the worst Avirah in the world is to get married to a Goya. Everybody knows that. Meaning, to be Mechalel Shabbat, it's true, it's wrong, it's terrible, death penalty, everything that you want. But since not everyone knows the importance and they haven't felt the beauty of the Shabbat, so we can't take them to such a severity. But to do with getting married to a Goya that everyone was careful about, which means that everyone knows tragically what it is, that's why it's the worst in the world. You understand the difference? And that's why it's so important for us to understand this, because again, it's the same thing. Do we look at the punishment, or do we look at what hurts more? When you get married to a Goya, you're slapping Hashem in the face. That was what I said, I think it was like 15 years ago in Gibraltar, and then they told me, this one is actually married to a Goya, and I was shocked, right? Why? Why is it like slapping Hashem in the face? You know why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us as a chosen nation. And now we're telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't want the chosen nation. We prefer to be with someone else. What happened to everything? How do we come up to the Torah and say, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu Torato? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you chose us from all nations, and therefore you gave us to the Torah, and then you're clinging to another nation. How do you do that? And because of that, that's why it's the worst Avirah, right? The entire concept of intermarriage, right? According to the halacha and according to the ashkafa. What did you want to ask?
So how did Shlomo Melech do? Because he converted everybody, no? One of his downfalls was that the Avodah Zarah that was done behind his back or whatever it was.
So put it like this: to do with Shlomo Melech did actually convert all of his wives, and even with that, the problem was not the converting them. The problem was not actual conversion in itself.
Puedes agarrar una lechita.
Which one?
Sorry, I was talking to my
sorry.
daughter. I didn't know. I'm sorry.
The concept was not the converting them, but rather the problem is that it says in the Torah you're not allowed to have too many wives. And Shlomo Melech said, what's the reason why you can't have too many wives? Because they're going to turn your heart astray. So the Torah says maximum as a king you could have 18 wives. Okay, but you can't have too many wives. Okay, Shlomo Melech had, you see the women laughing. Right?
18?
18 is maximum. Right?
Without an express, you can handle more wives.
Didn't you go crazy?
Without a credit card, you can handle more wives.
No, you're right. In the old days, they didn't have credit cards, so that's why he was able to handle them. You understand? So that's why there's no problem. The truth is, without the Cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom, or if we wouldn't have signed it or sworn it on the Ketubah, nowadays a normal person could have 4 wives per person. Okay? So
when you say nowadays, you're talking about 2020?
No, well, 2020 have a technical problem. First of all, it's prohibited because of polygamy and things like that. So it's prohibited by law to have more than one wife. But in countries where they allow you're allowed to have more than one wife. But you signed on your ketubah not to have more than one, or you're Ashkenazi, Jimmy. So you had it.
Yeah.
Right? Because Ashkenazim, no more than one. No more than one. Yeah?
I'm thankful for that. I mean,
Okay, you're thankful for it. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Fine. The truth is, some people say that was, by the way, you should know, the Gaon Mivilna, it's brought down that he wanted to annul the Rabbeinu Gershom Gola, but he said that if Mashiach will come only if all the neshamot come down, whether it's in Gilgulim and things like that, so the more children that we have, the closer we bring Mashiach, so everyone should have more than one wife. And he wanted to take it off, but he was never successful to do it. He wanted to do two things, that and to do Birkat Kohanim every single day. So Sfaradim do that, but Ashkenazim don't. They only do it on Yom Tov. So in Eretz Yisrael, and they go like the Gaon Vilna, they do it every single day Birkat Kohanim. Okay? So those were two things that the Gaon Vilna wanted to do. And again, as I mentioned, it was very important in his eyes to have more than one wife, right? The truth is, I'm going to tell you a secret. If you have more than one wife, they behave themselves better, right? Because they become jealous, right? One of the other. Because if not, you don't behave. Fatima and the other one, just that's the way it is. But anyway, fine, let's go.
You have to edit this video, bro.
Okay, fine. I don't know if I'll be able to put it up on YouTube like I did the other one. We'll have to see. Fine.
So how bad is to marry a goy? So what, nowadays, there's a lot of conversions, this, that, whatever. What's your opinion on that?
So the truth is, one second.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. So basically what happens now is as follows. So we asked the question, why is it that they read Kriyat Shema and they were crying? So the Admor Mislanim comes and he already said because there was already two different things. So we have to understand there was a Chilul Hashem here. So the Admor, the Baal Peor Moshe, he comes and he says as follows. He says, since they saw that people were going to go in his footsteps and follow suit, that was the biggest Chilul Hashem. And because of that Chilul Hashem, they wanted to say Kriyat Shema. Because Shema is the exact opposite. Shema fixes Chilul Hashem. Shema tells you, Hashem, you're everything. Everything else is nothing. And that's how you sanctify the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So because of that, that reminded Pinhas of the halakha that I have to kill him. He's doing a Chilul Hashem. I have to kill them. I have to do that. Right? And that's why it's so important for us to know. That's one reason why they actually started coming. They started reading the Kriyat Shema. However, though, right, it's also part of the concept of the Nachat Ruach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Sur Merah means taking away from the bad, taking away from the negative, right? But there's also a set of doing the good. So therefore, the way to go away from the bad and doing the good was, immediately they went and they did Kriyat Shema. Do you know it's so incredible that it's actually brought down in the halakha, right? That when a person wants, the Gemara brings it down, that a person wants to do an Avirah, they should come and they should think in Divrei Torah. First, fight your Yetzer Hara. If it doesn't help fighting against the Yetzer Hara, so then after doing the Yetzer Hara, you have to come, you have to, learn Torah. If you don't learn Torah, you read Kriyat Shema. If you can't read Kriyat Shema, then you come and you remember the day of death. And what are you doing then? When a person comes and they realize what is Kriyat Shema, they realize they're not going to sin. Because they realize that they do Yichud Hashem, that Hashem is one. Hashem is everything. They come and they start understanding what's going on. It's a completely different level. It's a completely different concept, a story. And that's why it's so important for us just to understand, right, what's going on. For us, we have to understand that the Kriyat Shema that they read and they were crying was because of the entire story. So therefore, again, if I'm going to look at life as a servant of God, Avodah Zarah was much more important. But when I'm going to look at life in as child of God, so then no, then it's a regesh, the sentimental feelings. And that's why Benot Moav was worse. And that's why even though, that's what I think Jimmy said at the beginning, you were correct because Benot Moav had a bigger impact on the Jewish nation. And you're right, and that's what we say until today even. Getting married to the Goya is worse than Mechalel Shabbat Befarhesia because people know that that's a no-no. People know that you could do anything that you want, but just don't do that. That's the worst thing that you could do. You understand? Because they know that that's it. Now, you're right. Maybe it's like what Mauricio said, that maybe because it's a domino effect, you get married to the Goya, you're not going to keep Shabbat anyway, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do that. It could be also. But it was something that was much more of a sentimental value. And that's the difference between a child and a servant. We are not only the servants of God, we are the children of God. We have to always look what makes our Father happy. Not only in punishments and rewards, also sentimental values. And that's why it's so important. That's what happens by a lot of people. It happens even by yourselves. Forget about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In interpersonal relationships, sometimes it happens that you could have one friend that they went and they did something, and you forgive them. Another other friend comes, he does something, and whoa, no, that's it, gone. Or an employee. One employee did something that made you lose a lot of money. But another employee did something, you fired him right away. What happened? The one that made you lose a lot of money, it was just a mistake. Or a common error. Listen, we're all human beings. We could make a mistake. But the other one, he betrayed your trust. He did something sneaky underneath the table. There, you're gonna fire him right away. Now, why? Because the same thing. Even though the mitzad, the level of severity, the severity was much higher because of punishment, but the sentimental value is much worse. And that's why, to do with this parasha, it's teaching us how to act. It's teaching us what's going on is that even though you're right, they did two sins. Avodah zarah, serving idols, and also they sinned with the daughters of Moab. But the sin of the daughters of Moab took a higher precedence. It's much worse that it killed 24,000 Jews in one shot, because in the eyes of God, it was worse. It was as if to say you're betraying Hashem much more than Avodah zarah. Because this is what we're trying to say, that even though in punishment it's much worse, that's only if you're a servant. We are children. Children understand. And that's what we have, again, as I said, whether it's with employees, with your own children. Your own children comes and you tell them, come back, you have curfew. What's the curfew? Come back at 12 o'clock. They come back at 12:30. You get upset. But if they went and they lied to you where they went, it could be that even if they came back at 3 a.m, which is much worse, but if they lied and they went against your trust, you've had it. That's much worse than even if they lied and they came back at 12, but they lied. I remember it once happened to one of my friends, just to show you how teenagers think nowadays. This is talking about when I was a teenager. I remember I went and I told one of the boys in my class, what, you're friends with him? He said, not anymore. I said, why not? Well, he's a fake. He's all for it. I said, what happened? He said, no, what happened was he asked us to go out for bowling. He called us up. He wanted to go bowling. So we said, fine. So we picked up our friends, and we went to go bowling. Okay, no problem. They went with their friends to bowling. When they get there, all of a sudden they realized that this guy, he met all his friends from his not religious school. They were there. So he went running to them, and he went. Now, what happened? When they went to pick him up, he went inside the car, and he said, listen, do me a favor. My father wants to see who I'm going with. Can you guys just come inside? So they went inside. They say, oh, good boys. Yeah, you go with them bowling, no problem. So they went bowling with them. The second they went there, it was a whole setup. So therefore, he could go with his other friends. And that's why he was able to go bowling. So that trick that he did, the other friends didn't want to go with him, but that's what they were able to do in order to trick their father in order for letting him to go. So even though he came back on time for the curfew, but he lied, that's much worse than not coming back on curfew, but they didn't lie. Because at least you have the trust of the child. So even though it could be that they went half an hour late, an hour late, you're going to give the child a much bigger punishment for the lying than for coming late to a curfew, as long as they don't lie to you and they're upfront and they're true in truth with what you're doing. Because again, every single human being, they have what's the sentimental feelings and the severity of the action. Severity of the action is not always according to the letter of the law of how it is. It's according to what you actually look upon in yourself. Okay? So Bezrat Hashem. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Did, Rabbi. Thank